Hi, this is Dr. Tracy.
Hey, Pasquale.
Hey.
How's it going?
So today I had a requested topic for you. I want to talk about energy because on my own spiritual journey, this was like a big kind of problem, like a challenge that I had in feeling energy. And everybody talks about energy and being able to feel it and what it is and what it feels like. And I just could not feel it. I did not understand what I was supposed to be feeling and why, and I just didn't get it. And so like a lot of times, even when we would have our events, I didn't, and you would like send the energy through, he goes and we connect our hands like this, like together, and then he'll send energy and we're supposed to all feel it, and like there's a big circle of people, and then everybody's like, oh, I feel it, and I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, I feel it. I'm like, no, I don't feel it.
Tracy's sitting there going,
I'm like, do you though? Do you feel it?
and someone's like, oh my God.
I know.
Whoa.
They're like, oh, that feels so good. And I'm like just thinking like, oh, you're full of crap.
And they weren't, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, now that I understand it. So I wanted to do this topic on just like the beginning, like for people who were where I was at, and to just kind of help them understand what it is and how to begin feeling it. So do you want to just start explaining?
Totally. And I think we should start with a disclaimer, right?
Okay.
Like what we're talking about is not healing energy or the ability to go and heal others, or that's a traditional type of process and you want to make sure you learn the tradition.
Right.
We're specifically talking about energy, right? Like just the basics of
Generally
it,
speaking.
the foundation, let's call it, right? And so when we look at energy, the big thing with energy is there's a couple facts, right? Number one, energy is all around us, right? It's in every living thing on the planet, has an energy, has a vibration, right?
And that's not disputed by any scientists or anything.
It's
That's not
fact.
just like a spiritual thing.
It's a fact, right? And every piece of energy out there vibrates differently, right? It all has its own little tone, its own vibration, right? And inanimate objects, because I always think it's important to talk about them, right? An inanimate object like a table, a chair, a bike, a car, right? They will always hold energy, right? And so a lot of times people will feel things from those different things because they're inanimate. They just hold it, right? So energy is that vibration that travels throughout us. It's that spark, right? It's that intuitive spark, that spirit within us. That's energy, right? So that's kind of the definition of it. And I think what you were looking at and what you kind of wanted to go to was how you feel it. What do you do to feel it, right?
Right.
And I think some of that starts with, I think number one is you have to let go of the mind. Like you have to release thought, right? Whenever you're dealing with something that is on a spiritual nature, and you'll always hear me say this to like my clients, right?
Yeah.
Is like, what do you feel? Feel is the key word when it comes to anything spiritual.
And to feel, whether it's emotionally, physically, spiritually, you have to get out of your mind.
Correct. You stand in our own way.
It's even harder, and I've shared often that I struggle with ADHD and anxiety, and so when I'm up here in my head with all the thoughts, how am I going to be able to like feel anything? So that was probably my first hurdle right there, was just knowing that, wait, you really have to like ground. And I was concentrating on like the wrong aspect of it. So which we can get into when you show us like how to do it.
I think like it's important to recognize, right? Like our mind is there to keep us human, right? It's that ego side that wants us to stay in the human realm, right? Like to live a life, to be a part of things. And so when you start talking about energy, intuition, anything like that, your mind is always going to kind of step in front of you and go, but are you sure? Are you sure that this is what you should be doing? And it's just because it's taking care of us. Right. And so I think number one is just making sure you let go of the kind of those feelings, right? Like your thoughts.
Right. So that can be through grounding, breathing exercises, maybe like a progressive relaxation, any sort of meditation. something like that, right?
Yeah, and you can go with like a super long meditation if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, when you're kind of like first starting with energy, just breathe it through, right?
Yeah.
Feel yourself ground and let go. Take
Just
that
get out
2
of your
seconds.
head.
Exactly. Get out of your head.
And get into your, just like when you do a breathing exercise, how you just like focus on the breath.
And it's interesting because a lot of times, especially people that I work with and just developing their intuition, right? The one of the key things that you'll catch is that when you're focusing on it, you're actually not breathing.
Right.
You stop breathing.
That's true.
And you're spending so much time focusing on feeling the energy or whatever, right? Like pulling the right card.
Right.
That you're so focused on that you're not breathing, and by not breathing, you're not grounding, and so you're not connecting.
Well, the thing that I learned about feeling energy right away was that when you focus on it, you actually can't feel it. It'll go away. So like if we talk about feeling energy, let's say if you put your hands, together about 6 inches apart or so, and where you can be able to feel that energy in between. Some things that I learned is one, to focus on the space between, not focus on the palms of your hand, but focus on the space around
not the
it.
actual hands.
Right. And then, but when you're focusing too hard, you're now in your mind, and you're not going to feel it. And so it was kind of when I would kind of get annoyed a little bit and kind of like be like, ugh, me get annoyed? Never.
Doesn't happen. She's so cool and collected.
Such a sweetheart.
She's easy.
So, but as soon as I would kind of step away and just relax, it would come back and I'd be like, oh. And so I learned from trial and error, it's kind of like you're in this mid way of your conscious and unconscious mind. And then also and then if you are focusing on something consciously, it's the space, not the element.
Yes. And I would actually, I personally would say, don't use the word focus, use the word feel, right?
Right, that's better, yeah.
Just because...
Well, because focus goes back to the mind.
Exactly. If you start to say focus, I for me, and I'm not really a type A, but I will say this, there are moments that I am. But if you say focus to me, I'll be like...
Yeah, that's how I was. I thought I was like a superhero trying to make something happen.
Nothing's going to happen because I'm focusing, right? But if you let go and you just kind of feel,
right,
you start to recognize it.
That's a really good point. Because it's already there. We're just feeling what is already exists there. We're not creating anything.
We're not opening this present that you didn't know was existent.
Yeah.
It's actually already in you, right? Mm-hmm. It's vibrating inside of us right now, right? Mm-hmm. We're all sending it through as we speak. And so all we're trying to do is just feel what's already moving.
Right.
Right? Because energy is always in motion.
So let's help people to the very beginnings of how they would feel. So
sure.
What is...
So I would always say step 1 is just to breathe and let go. And do it to a point until you start to feel your body just get heavy, right? It's an easy way to recognize that you're not in your mind, right? Relax.
Yeah.
Right? And there was a word you used, you said...
I don't remember. I have ADHD.
We're going to put that down as a note. She doesn't remember. I have yet to hear her say that. Remember.
Sentence.
No, but it was a term. When you meditate, it was
progressive relaxation.
No.
Breathing techniques.
And we're going there.
Grounding.
So, anyways, it's not about. We're gonna forget the word. It never happened. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen. But don't focus on releasing, right? Or relaxation. Wasn't it relaxation?
Yes.
Where you were get into a space of relaxation, and it's no one really, relaxation is defined so differently,
right?
That you don't want to go into a space where you have to think. You just want to let go, you're just feeling that weight, right? So that's step 1. Just breathe and just let go. Just feel yourself let go. Then, I personally, there's 2 ways to do it. To start, you can clap, 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 clap. or you can just rub your hands. I like rubbing your hands. Rubbing your hands to me is just a lot easier. And all we're doing is creating friction, right? But by creating friction, we're actually having the energy move in a faster way, right? So when you rub it till it feels warm, then pull it apart and just start to feel. What do you feel? Tracy, what are you feeling?
I feel it feels like a static electricity, like a bunch of tingling, fast tingling.
Tingling, that's a great word. Like for me, like I will tell you, so like for me, I would say it almost feels like electrical.
So looking back now, I realized that I was feeling energy, but I didn't understand it because I would say, oh, it just, because a lot of times mine would feel like the pulses of like my heartbeat or something. And I was like, oh, that's just the pulse. I'm just feeling my pulse.
But that's energy.
Like, exactly. That's why I'm like, duh, you were feeling it.
It's movement.
I just didn't understand it. Or I would be like, oh, sometimes I would get like a involuntary, like something like like that. And I realize now I'm like, oh, that's the energy moving my finger. Yeah. And I learned that when we would do the Reiki, you would do Reiki and at our events for the participants, and you'd be like over their leg or something like that, or their foot, not touching them though, and then their foot would like jerk, and I was like, oh, and it made the connection for me. I'm like, oh, so that's actually the energy I'm feeling. So I was feeling it, I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's hard because I think it has a defined feeling, right? But we talked about this at one point where we were talking, and it was like, the thing to remember when it comes to spirituality, right, is number one, stop thinking. Just don't think. Feel is like the best thing. But number two, remember we're kind of
new territory.
Well, it's new territory, but we're kind of programmed by Hollywood a little bit, right? Oh, yeah. Because Hollywood has a way of showing that this is what happens, right? Like this is what to expect, right? And so like I always give the example of like I once was in a session with someone. I was like, I'm getting something and I'm talking through it, and they're like, wait, no one's here. I don't see anyone. And I was like, oh no, that's not that doesn't happen here. That just happens in Hollywood, right?
Right.
Like, Ghost Whisperer. Yeah, she'll just pop in and they just, there's that one where she just starts screaming, oh my God, I see someone, it's for you. And it's like, no, come on. It's subtle, right? Like, but Hollywood has this way.
It's just a feeling.
Exactly. It's the feeling. And it's just kind of recognizing that. Don't go into your head and overthink it. Just let it happen.
It reminds me of with Sedona. And Sedona, Arizona has the vortexes.
Yeah.
And people would, everybody, when they first go there, they're like, what am I supposed to feel? And you imagine it to be like this swirling, like you could feel it physically around, like swirling around your body, and it's interesting because once I learned about it, then I started, teaching other people about it. And it's each vortex kind of has a different type of energy, right? And like some are masculine, feminine, some are like high energy, some are lower energy. And it's like some people will just feel very, very like calm or peaceful, or like even start crying or feel very sensitive emotionally. And then I'll go to other vortexes and I will get this burst of energy and be like, I want to run. And I just run all the way down the hill, the hiking trail. Yeah. And it's just that feeling, but you don't actually feel this like a physical vortex, like you're in a wind tunnel or a tornado.
It's actually, you brought up a memory. Like when my mom visited when I first moved here, and we took her to Sedona, and I was like, oh Mom, there's a vortex right here. And she's like, vortex? And I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is energy. And she's like, I don't see no energy. And I was like, well, it's here. I'm like, I'm feeling it. And she's like, I don't feel anything. And then she kind of left it. It was just because she was in her mind, right? Like she was expecting.
Well, you're expecting to feel something like tangible.
Or see something, right? Yeah. Like you're going to walk through this veil of energy. It's energy. It's already there, right? Yeah. It's part of us. And so it's existent.
And so what got me started on this topic to want to begin to feel energy to begin with, a quick funny story, is so
Classic Tracy.
So after my first dog passed away, Charlie, I spoke to on the phone a pet psychic, and I was so into this. I was like I was like a desperate need to like connect to him and like talk to him, and I wanted like messages from him, and so I'm taking notes and I'm doing, writing and asking her a ton of questions, and all of a sudden she just says really nonchalantly to me, she's like, well, you should, he's right beside him. You can feel him. And meanwhile, I'm sitting on my king size bed, and I am like all over the place, looking like a blind person, like looking like.
Just picture blindfold, trying to pin the tail on the donkey.
Pin the tail.
That's Tracy looking for the energy on her king size bed.
I was all over the bed in like all four corners, and I kept going, well, wait, because she was trying to continue, and I kept like stopping her and asking her about it, because I was like so desperate to like feel him.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, what are you? He's like, and all of a sudden she just goes, oh, you know what? Never mind. It was kind of like the pity.
Okay, honey, we're good. We did good.
And I was like, oh, I felt so bad.
It's hard though.
So
it's hard.
I want to know how to feel this,
Yeah.
So that started my
journey,
energy journey. Yeah.
It's true though, because I think we all have a different expectation of what that looks like.
Right.
I was just working with someone yesterday, and I was like, okay, let's just kind of feel the energy of that person, and I didn't even realize, like, sometimes I forget, like, okay, I do it every day, right?
Right.
And so I have to kind of slow down, and I was like, you just go like this.
Right.
And like, no, that didn't work. We had to go a little slower, right? I had to explain it. Yeah. I had to like define what that feels like, right?
Right.
And so I think that's what this is about, right?
Exactly.
Step one is ground, get yourself into a space, breathe, and then rub your hands together, slap them really hard, whichever one you prefer, and then feel. And let the energy kind of course and move and kind of define it. And I think is a great suggestion that you had brought up was, and I'm a big believer in documenting your intuitive journey. Mm-hmm. I think it's so important to have those moments where you go backwards and say, yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because it's that proof loop, right? It's that proof that you actually are making that happen. It's huge. And I think that documenting is good.
Well, also from you taught me like all of our energy feels differently. And we could have different energy at different states.
Yeah.
So it's important to get to know what our energy feels like first and foremost before, if we are going to continue any sort of journey in that way and want to expand upon that, we need to get in touch with what our own energy feels like first.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think what you would want to start with is in your journal, the date, right? What am I feeling, right? Happy, sad, angry, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, write it. And I think use that word to define what you need to get out of, right? So like if you put happy and then you start breathing, your happiness should go to a chill, right? Like, and not necessarily that you're sad, but like chill, right?
Calm.
And once you're in that state of calm, rub your hands together. What do you feel? Write it down.
Whether it's tingling, swirling, kind of like a pulsating.
There's so many different,
right.
I've had people say it feels like raindrops. Some people have told me it feels like pulsing, like big time. Like everyone's going to define it in their own way. And the definition is super important, right? Like, because as you progress into this journey, that definition helps you define you, but it also helps you define other things. So it's important to define it in your words.
And my understanding is energy, to what we're talking about here, is the foundation for connecting, whether you want to be connecting to your own intuition or connecting to angels, guides, anything really.
Angel cards, crystals,
right.
Pendulums, being a medium, being
anything.
Anything intuitive. It all involves a form of energy, connecting with some form of energy. So it's always good to practice.
So we first have to learn to connect to ourselves so that we can connect outside of ourselves.
To more easily connect.
Right? Okay.
Totally.
And then to take that a step further with psychology, it's very important too that we get out of our mind a lot of time. And like, I will ask clients all the time, well, you know, what did you feel? And they tell me what they were thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's great to process, but what were you feeling? You know, what were the emotions, you know, that were attached to those thoughts?
Yeah.
And then also it's, you know, what is the, what does that feel like in the body physically? And so that creates that whole mind, body, spirit connection. And so feeling our own energy in this way, even if you're not even necessarily wanting to expand upon your spiritual journey and feeling energy, it's also going to help you in your psychological, emotional, behavioral health journey.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And you know, it's important because I think you touched on it, but it's like whenever someone says, you know, what are you thinking? It's always defined as a word that you're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. But you do the same when you say, what are you feeling? Mm-hmm. Right? You define it as a word that you're thinking.
Right.
It can't be the word. It has to be the feeling.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the energy you always want to stick to is what's the feeling.
Mm-hmm. I remember my Spanish teacher in high school would always say, don't try to translate it. Awful. And I do not speak Spanish. I wish I did. But
don't try to translate it.
She would say, because you have to have a picture, she would say, because she could see obviously in all of us, you know, especially me, I'm like in my head, like literally trying to translate it before I give her the answer, and think of like, I'm just going by memory. I'm just trying to memorize the translations.
Oh, got it.
And she was trying to get us to like actually see the word in Spanish as a picture or as that without translating it from English. You know, which is, I think, the concept of like that Rosetta Stone and stuff, like the pictures so you're not trying to like translate anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, that just reminded me.
No. But it's actually totally sidebar, but it's one of the key things when you're connecting to whether it's guide, spirit, angel,
there
medium.
We go. So there was
like
there was a reason I just brought that up.
A huge part of it because you
I was
start
connecting.
to define it. She was connecting. Escuela. She was connecting. She did very
I failed.
good. And we'll be revisiting that lesson when we get there. Because that's what we do.
Okay, so as homework, what we recommend is practicing just this step. And what we can do is, if there is interest, we can go deeper into, you know, lessons as we, you know, in upcoming episodes. But right now is just really grounding, letting go of the mind, and then either doing the clapping exercise or the rubbing your hands together, and then just really feeling your energy. And then like you were showing, you can also like expand, you can bring your hands apart a little bit and feel it like get a little bit less strength and intensity and strength. And then when you put them back together, you can feel it kind of like you're compressing that energy, and you can actually feel the compression, which is so wild.
And that's the key, right? Like is to start
and you can play with it, you know, turn your hands around, just kind of like you're playing with putty, you know, or like Play-Doh or something, you know, like just kind of play with it. And then from there, you can kind of put your hands, you know, maybe a couple inches from your body, from your heart.
I would do that as a step 2 though. Like don't go like step 1. Like I would just focus on just kind of getting used to the energy between your hands.
There. Okay.
And then step 2 is I would go and now start to feel it on you. Right? What does it feel like when you're touching it, right? And again, not touching.
Right.
Like you're away from it,
a couple
right?
Inches apart.
Pull it apart, pull it in, expand it, move it, right?
Because mine feels different. Like on my hands, it always feels very powerful and energetic, like a static tingling. But then on my body, it's a swirling.
But think about that, right? 2 receptors.
Oh, duh. Why do you always duh me?
Unagi. Unagi.
And next lesson is catching a fly with a chopsticks.
We'll do that next week for you. I can't catch anything. Let's be real. Come on. balls.
No,
enough.
you cannot.
I do not catch. It doesn't. I don't throw
ever
and I
ask
don't
him to
catch
throw a ball.
and I don't run.
My
Those are
poor
3
dog.
things. They don't work. And your dogs.
But they are pretty entertaining.
It's fun to watch me do it or try to do it, but it's never good. Like my coach said in high school, I'm going to have to suspend you for throwing that ball at me when I was actually aiming to someone else. Not good. But energy is very different because it's not that. It just totally is. But like, so I would say 3 steps. Step 1, practice just spend a couple days letting go, feeling what it feels like. Step 2, letting go. What does it feel like here? And document it. Document, right? Go back to documentation. See how it evolves.
Yeah.
Does it change? Is it the same? Define it, right? And then I would say step 3 is pet or friend, family member. Put your hands together and just ask the person if they can feel you. Or if you try to feel them, right? Without really trying to do anything, right? Just get that sensation and then define it, right?
Yeah, I do it on my dog.
Dogs are great.
Yeah.
They love it.
Especially when they're sleeping.
But
unsuspecting.
And then I would say step 4 advances, don't rub your hands anymore.
Right.
Just do it without.
Right.
And try to connect to that energy and just focus.
Because by doing that, you're actually like creating that more, a higher level of intensity to be able to feel it. So you want to just be able to just feel it without
it going
manually
super
intensifying
fast.
it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Go from creating it to now it's in natural state, right? Go to a tree and put your hands next to a tree. The vibration's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like earth is always fun too. Like there's a different vibe from everything.
Yeah.
But go out, have fun, play with it. Again, do not try to heal people or say that you can heal them. That is not what you're doing.
You're healed.
It doesn't work that way. We have to respect traditions. This is literally just energy.
Yeah.
Energy 101.
And we want to hear about your experiences. So please comment, share any challenges. That's what we're about too.
Yeah.
Is really the challenges that we have to overcome it. Because I know I can't be the only one like having challenges.
No, I have challenges every day.
Yeah,
Trust me.
too.
But like also comment like what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because like
What
it's always great to hear other people's descriptions.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you have other like I'm sharing what I kind of troubleshooted whatever. To like share.
I don't know. You need to ask your Spanish teacher.
Oh, that was a good
Picture
one.
the word. Picture the word.
But share if you come up with, things that helped you, that can help others too. And that's
It's
what we're
the
here
truth. We're all here building a community. We help each other.
for. All right. Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you soon.